Before this video starts, I'd just like to point out that parts 1 and 2 will be included at the beginning, just so we have all the information in one documentary. And do not watch this video if any of the following warnings trigger you, which will play on screen now. The internet is a vast and ever-expanding place where you can find almost anything. Almost anything you want to find can be found, from the innocent, to the weird, to the explicit, and the morbid. All of these are just a click away from our fingertip to our mouse. As someone who's grown up using the internet, I've always had a morbid curiosity, often finding myself coming across various forms of shock content, either by accident or on purpose. I've personally seen a lot over the years, but I won't bore you with listening about it. While the clear web holds what feels like a universal size of web pages and videos, it also holds a lot of games that are out there that you can either play on your browser or for you to download and play with a click of a button. One could say the clear web is massive. It most certainly is, but it's nothing compared to the unlisted side of the internet. The deep web and dark web are vast and different compared to the clear web. The deep web is often used to store private information such as passwords, banking information, medical databases, as well as government databases. If you've ever logged onto a school database or worked in some kind of job that requires you to look at passwords or stored information, you've technically been on the deep web. The dark web, on the other hand, is vastly different. While some use it for just general anonymous browsing and others use it for whistleblowing or activism without the threat of being apprehended by a corrupt government, it's mostly known for its more malicious purposes. We often associate the dark web with cybercriminals, hackers, drug dealers, arms dealers, snuff films, and unfortunately, the dark web is the no man's land of the digital realm, and it's not to be taken lightly. Now, when we put the word game at the end of dark web, we often either think of creepypasta videos that claim to have bought a cursed game off the dark web, and now they're cursed for life, or they're being tracked down. Or, more sinisterly, we think of the game Sad Satan. Unlike the creepypastas, Sad Satan was a real dark web horror game. Many of those who played it documented how it was mainly a walking simulator with flashing images of known predators on the screen every so often. They also documented being flashed images of gore, including truck accidents, farm equipment accidents, as well as beheadings.
We go this way. Took these big subwoofers on the side now too. That's really fucking weird. Fuck. Alright, now. Alright. That was an image of a person who lost their fucking head.
But the other thing that was also mentioned being included was, unfortunately, I would most definitely not recommend searching for this game to play it, as you'll only ruin your mental state from the graphic imagery, your computer from the tons of malware the game supposedly contained, and your life given what the game has on it. The police would more than likely kick your door down. Now, if you're a long-time viewer of my channel, then you would know one of my series on the game, Death Forest. And as you know, I had to quit that series and wipe my whole PC because I didn't realize the site that was hosting the download to the game was also hosting Sad Satan on the clear web. It was entirely possible that this version of Death Forest wasn't hiding any, I guess you could say, surprises for me, but I didn't want to risk it knowing the mental and legal consequences if there was. Now, many YouTubers flock to cover Sad Satan, and even to this day, they still come back to talk about it. But what I haven't noticed is anyone talking about this, a more unknown dark web game that has appeared to be swept under the rug. It all started like any other night for me, if I'm being 100% honest. Staying up extremely late until I could barely hold my eyes open anymore, scrolling on YouTube. If I remember, I was looking at something rather innocent, like a historical documentary or just a commentary YouTuber talking over whatever was hot at the moment. That was when I noticed a weird but eye-grabbing video at the side of my recommended. Some YouTuber by the name of Lost Reality 999. With some supposed dark web game that I'd never heard of. The upload was 2 years ago as well and had barely any views. Alright, I thought, let's see this dark web horror game, I thought. I wasn't actually prepared for the rabbit hole I'd go down. Almost immediately after clicking on the video, the uploader makes it clear that this is a Gore game from the dark web being passed around the internet, and that its name is Amnesis. Before going any further, I checked the description where it states, "Have you ever played Amnesis, a new game that is said to be the next Sad Satan, except worse? Here is a link to where I came across it. This Redditor has a full playthrough that is uncensored, and a link to download the game to play, and a link to a subreddit. We'll get to the subreddit later. I'm not going to show footage of this, even while yes, he's blurred parts of it. It's become apparent that his blurring abilities are quite unhelpful at times, and you can often see what he's trying to blur a split second before it's censored. As well as the fact that he's also left audio on, which he even states himself. So, while you won't see video, I will show stills of the gameplay. But, as always, let's get into it. Almost immediately, we see ourselves in some sort of hellish dungeon with a theme of butchery. You'll also notice these weird mannequins that appear to be covered in human skin and sort of act like weeping angels from Doctor Who if you've watched that. We also quickly find out that the person you play as in this game is a woman by the poor text-to-speech dialogue. We also appear to have an assault rifle that resembles the AK-47, which can likely be used to gun down these grotesque amalgamations of the weeping angels. There's also this very unnerving wind-up box music present in the background of the game, always following the character. We also see some kind of pill container that appears to be able to be picked up, and not too long after the uploader does this, a news report flashes on the screen which reads as follows. Breaking news. The doll maker, aka the Butcher, finally apprehended. A man only known to law enforcement as the doll maker, or Butcher as the locals of the area like to call him, has finally been captured after a 10-year manhunt. The last 10 years, over 752 cemeteries across the region have been targeted, each scene leaving several graves dug up, what officers have dubbed as dolls left behind. These dolls are no toys. Instead, he would dig up graves and use the occupants' bodies and bones to stitch together life-size dolls which are dressed in clothing from said graves and left unseen. Not only were already deceased persons used, but many times missing persons would turn up as well, all cut up and stuffed with material and music boxes sewn inside. Over the years, no trail and connections have been made, leaving law enforcement baffled, that is, until recently when. That's when the end of the report cuts off and we get flashed with a too graphic for YouTube message by the video uploader. Scrolling back, I saw a glimpse of the image that he tried censoring, and unfortunately, it appears to be a body that's been stuffed inside of an actual life-size doll. The other images aren't censored, but because I'm guessing the uploader determined they weren't gore or contained bodies within said dolls, but I'm not going to be taking chances with this one. And if I'm being honest, these are very unnerving images as well. Dolls in themselves, some of the ones you see on the internet, are horrifying, but the ones in this video are just distressing to look at. That's all I can really say. This information we get from the report gives us more context to the things that are following us in the game, as well as the music box in the background, which is sinister, to say the least. Although it does give us some questions. Are we an officer of sorts storming this killer's hideout to get more information? Or are we the killer ourselves in some kind of purgatory for our actions? We'll have to keep viewing the video. Finally, the music changes after reading the report to a calmer but more unsettling soundtrack, which I can only describe as a false promise of safety. The OP is then walking down several hallways, gunning down these dolls as they attack from everywhere. And they only attack him, of course, when he diverts his attention away from them. The OP eventually enters a room with several dolls and is met with a mat in front of him containing a pentagram. Then, I guess you could say, we meet the first boss of the game. A tall, muscular man with no skin on him whatsoever attacks the OP, and is all things considered a lot faster compared to the dolls, and has a very sinister laugh on him that follows as he attacks. Of course, you know, the OP does manage to take down the boss, and upon going to the area where he spawned in, the OP makes a discovery that in that area contains some sort of craft bench, which we do see a doll head sitting upon. So we can of course infer that the person that we just killed was the doll maker. That's good, but there's more to the game. The next room is just disturbing, being a pool of blood, and what appears to be bodies wrapped up and suspended in the air. Then out of nowhere, a scrawny voice just comes out, saying, "I told you he was nothing to play with," and a dialogue ensues between the character OP plays as in this voice. All we really get out of this is that the main character seems to know this voice, and the voice seems to be here to guide the character as we play. As the uploader comes across another pill container, another gore flash occurs, which of course is censored except for a split second at the start, showing what looks to be the beginning of a cartel video, although bloody. While yes, the video is censored, the OP left the audio out for you to hear. Most of it you can just hear men talking in the background as loud music plays, which is unfortunately quite common for cartel videos to drown out the torture they're committing, and the occasional gag from the victim. And out of nowhere, it's hard to really explain what I heard, but I knew what it was. They definitely slit the man's throat. As you can hear his breathing change to where you could tell they had cut the windpipe, and he was wheezing as he was struggling. And then it's a very long scene as well. Of course you can't see it, but you can hear it. And eventually, of course, it ends and we're back in the game. As the OP continues walking, we hear the voice again say, "Watch your step," and then the main character falls down a hole into quite literally a pool of blood. And once again, we come across another pill container. This time, the uploader actually did a good job, and I couldn't see anything for a split second, although you can still hear it. It mainly just appears to be a voice repeating something in reverse. And of course, out of curiosity and for the sake of the video, I'm going to put this audio into Audacity and see what comes out of it when I reverse it to put it into its original state. Okay, so I have the audio right here. We'll just listen to it now, in reverse. So, if you can't see that already, it's reversed. And that's what you hear in the video. So what I'm going to do is go effect, and I'm gonna go special, and I'm gonna actually reverse it. So now, I've reversed... You get the point. Basically, we're gonna hear what it's actually saying now. I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of nervous. Like, I know it's just a message, but I'm nervous. But you know what, let's just go in. All I'm really hearing is, she suffered. So what I might do is, pitch and tempo. Now, starting pitch, I'm gonna make the pitch go up. That was not it.
Suicide, it is a major sin. Suicide, it is a major sin.
So sorry, it is a medicine. Alright.
Suicide, it is a major sin.
Okay. So, they're saying, so sorry, it is a medicine. Well, I mean, we did just take that pill container, so that does kind of make sense, alright. So, from that little experiment, we can see that someone is apologizing for the medicine we are consuming. Now, as to why we need this medicine, given what it makes us see, I'm not too sure. Maybe we're unlocking memories of sorts. The next room is full of nooses, and we start to hear more noises in reverse. Luckily this time the main character appears to ask this voice, which we now know is Twisty, what they are saying. Twisty simply says, they're calling you a sinner, but you already knew that. As the OP walks closer, he sees a photo on the ground, which then proceeds to flash an image of a pentagram on the screen. Now I can't confirm if this is blood, but it honestly does look like it. The connection with her being called a sinner and then the image of a pentagram does suggest my theory on it being some sort of purgatory. And given the context, it does seem to be quite plausible. There's another photo, although this one does get censored by the OP. There also appears to be a decal of an actual disemboweled body on the wall near the end of the hallway too, which I'll have to censor out. The music then shifts to something more sinister as the walls become painted in blood, claiming to what I think says, "He died, haha," followed by the decal of another disemboweled corpse on the ceiling, which I'll have to censor out. We also see other text saying, "It's your fault." This is when I noticed the stuffed body from the beginning also being present on the ceiling. Then this text appears. "No, he's dead. He's effing dead. Why and how could have he done this to me? To himself. Why didn't he talk to me? It's all my fault for not being able to save him. Talk him out of it. He seems so happy with everything. Life, our work, every effing thing, and now he's gone. He's really gone. I don't know if I'll be able to do this without him. He's the only person I loved in this entire world, and now he's gone forever. I guess this is punishment for everything I've done. It should be me instead, whose brains were scattered everywhere. Where is the effing devil when you need him?" This only opens more questions as to what's going on. Her connections with Satanism, and what is likely her punishment for having so in this twisted universe of the game. It also makes me wonder why he took his own life, and why whoever this is taunting her over it, if it's her fault. Nevertheless, let's keep viewing. We don't have much left. The OP walks to a dead end that is simply a message written as "kill yourself," and what looks like the decal of someone's blasted head on the ceiling, which is definitely referencing what I'm guessing is her husband. The main character says, "He died, kill yourself," clearly reading what was on the wall, followed by, "Why is my mind doing this? I don't want to think about this." OP then finds one more photo which is also censored without leaving anything for a split second. This is where the video ends. So, there's a lot to unpack here. I mean a lot. Other than the fact that there's so much blatant gore present in this game, and there's also some sort of story. Clearly whoever we play as is trapped in some sort of purgatory for our actions. We can infer this with the, "I guess this is punishment for everything I've done." I also find it interesting that the upload has no issue with people asking for a part 2 to the game, as well as providing a way to access the game yourself. Before we look into that, Lost Reality 999 did actually end up making a part 2, although it's just a replay of where he got up to. Now surely someone else has played this and talked about it, right? Well, someone else has. Just to make things clear, I'm not going to be providing a name for this individual simply because of what the video contained. Not video-wise, but audio-wise. I'm doing this for your own mental sanity, and I'll explain why when I get to that part of the video. I'm honestly quite shaken by what I heard. Nevertheless, let's get into detail on what this upload contained. The video starts off quite similar, with the very similar intro text to the last uploader we looked at, which makes me believe that this was created by Lost Reality 999 on a separate account. This time, we're greeted with what looks to be a title screen to the actual game, and to say the least, it's disturbing. Of course, we see the title in the background, as well as an owl that has completely pitch black eyes with ravens sprouting out from it. We also notice a few symbols, as well as what looks like a noose in the background. We also see a black hand around the bottom left of the screen, as well as who we come to find out to be Twisty hiding behind the TV. Yes, he looks like that. There's also a small pill container on the desk that holds the TV, likely referencing the mentality of the main character. I think the most disturbing part of this title screen is the eyes that watch you at the top. It's like they know what you're getting into and have full intent on watching you suffer as you play it. Sorry about my little mistake I made there. Stutter, I mean. We finally also get an idea as to who made the game, given that at the bottom we see EG and Missing Games. EG is definitely the person behind it, and Missing Games is likely their dev group. I tried searching up for them but got no results. As for now, we must see the uploader hit play. We are immediately sent into an intro scene of a girl writing a letter, who we find out the main character we play as is named Samantha Blackwell. As she writes the letter, we find out she's going to end her own life. She claims that she was born with the devil inside of her, which then proceeds to flash several satanic images. We also see a few censored photos, as well as a suicide via hanging that wasn't censored at the start. She also mentions a group called BOA, and that they've done too much. We then hear what sounds like a generic choking noise to, I guess, show that she strangled herself to death, followed by a hellish tunnel flashing with gore that is censored. We spawn in what looks like an attic with a hole around one of the corners, allowing us to drop down. We get to meet Twisty when we drop down, as he explains you're here to collect memories of the things that you've done. He also gives a brief rundown on how to collect such memories. We then get a screen giving us some information. We already understood what the pictures were, but we finally get a context on what the pills are for, which are actually to keep our sanity up, giving us an idea that Samantha is mentally unwell. To be honest, we already knew that given what's in the game and to come. There's ammo boxes which can be picked up to shoot down enemies, as well as pentagrams to stand on to regain health, followed by a sentence I refuse to say out loud. Other pictures are just extra controls and other instructions on how to play. We finally get our first piece of context with a note that says, "It's hard losing most of your childhood memories. For the most part, everything is a blur. I can only remember my name and small snippets before I was placed into foster care. I have no one to turn to for answers. Once I left the foster home, everything completely went downhill. My desires and untamable fantasies have taken me further into this downward spiral of violence and sickness. It almost seems unreal. I'm not sure where it all stems from, but I feel this darkness so deep in my core, like it's from a past life or just been a part of me altogether since birth." We also see some kind of wicked grin drawn on the page, followed by a 666. As we move down further, we find more memories that are gore, that is, cut out by the uploader. We also get a new note with the black hand attached. It reads as follows: "It's crazy to look back on joining a cartel as an assassin at such a young age. Before that, I roamed the streets doing small-time killing for the fun of it, but while on the run, LF, La Familia, really gave me a purpose. A new identity and a place among like-minded individuals, even though the entry was extreme. Terrorist, and if you die, you die. If not, you carry the spear, the mark of loyalty to La Familia. In the end, it was all worth it, and once I moved up in the ranks, I was even given my own factional lead. When that happened, I really felt like I found my place in the world. I was able to bring my brother along too, which made me feel even more at home. With that, we have some insight that Samantha had associated herself with the cartel, even becoming a high-ranking member above them. And I believe that handprint is the symbol of La Familia. Moving on, we come across the first enemy, a man standing in a corner in a hospital gown laughing. He then lunges with a cross out screaming, "She's not a Christian." These repeated cases of praise for the devil and the betrayal of Christians in this game really makes me wonder the personal ideologies of the person who created this. I'll talk about this later. As we walk through the hallway, we get another note. It reads as follows. This is weird to me. Almost as soon as I got approached by a random unknown organization for recruitment and refused. Our own cartel got hit by quite a few US agencies within the government and now we are disbanded. Only a few of us survived, including my brother, followed by a statement I refuse to say out loud. I don't know what I would do if I lost him forever. It really... Sorry, I'm still stuttering a little bit from what I saw. Well, not saw, but heard. He really thinks he should... Sorry. He really thinks we should join up with that organization, though. Obsidian Abs, Blackbirds... Sounds like some sort of Black Ops group. I'm not so sure myself, but all I know is if he's going, I'm going. He's the only person in this world I would follow to the depths of hell and give my life for. Now, this gives us more context from the previous video. This wasn't some lover of hers, but her brother, who she cares very dearly about, which is apparent in this note. Nevertheless, we must continue. We then walk into what looks like a torture chamber with Samantha saying, "My workroom." We come across another note that reads as follows. So, we did it. We joined them. This group is so crazy, I had no idea anything like this even existed among us. I don't think anyone could have truly guessed all of it. This isn't some Illuminati crap people talk about. This is so different, so much more deeper and sinister. The OA literally have their hand in everything and everywhere. From the highest form of government all the way down to the most globally and even most popular serial killers you've ever heard of. We're part of it. Drugs, money, murder, kidnapping, dark web business, politics, legit, and underground companies and businesses, law enforcement, and the list goes on. Pretty much anything and anywhere you can think of, you can be sure to find the OA. It's crazy. After getting tatted with the mark, you are in for life, like most organizations of this nature. But it's business as usual. Me and my brother do what we do, well, so I know, in no time, we shall rise the ranks once again, and no one will be able to stop us. Followed by a statement I refuse to say out loud. We now know that Samantha is also part of some sort of highly secretive organization on Earth, that's intentions are only to fuel one's most violent desires as shown by the upper text. Nevertheless, we must carry on. We then get flashed with an image that says, "I love my job," which is followed by Samantha repeating the same remark. She then goes over how red rooms are real and how there's a massive market for online snuff films. I want to point out how these drawings and images are very similar to how the person who uploaded the first video we saw drew the sensors. This will be important later. Other than that, we get an explanation over what the owls are about with showing the obsidian abs. We can infer that the owl is the symbol of this organization. We then get a very poorly but put together mock torture audio that mainly comprises of Samantha's voice and stock screaming from some free audio website, I'm assuming, followed by a censored image, which I'm assuming is the aftermath of a torture. We then go into what looks like a ritual room with a note that reads as follows. Ever since I sold my soul when I was younger, I have debated what is real or fake. Is the friend the devil sent me out a product of my imagination, or is Twisty actually real and following me? What about the other demons who have visited me? The things that have happened during my rituals? All the crazy supernatural stuff I cannot explain. Is that all real too, or am I just too far gone mentally? I cannot tell. I had no one when I left this foster home. All I had was Twisty guiding me, and that was what kept me alive and able to survive all this time. So no matter how real it actually is or not, I still give thanks to someone I'm not going to say out loud and worship him wherever I can. leave sacrifices wherever I can. I'm not gonna say that out loud. Wherever I can. I am grateful of everything. Once I die, I'll know the truth when I'm either left in blackness or taken down below. We get more information on the mind of Samantha and what she stands for and how she received her devotion for Satan in the first place. Nevertheless, we must continue onward. As we go upstairs, we see a similar environment with the hanging bodies wrapped up on the ceiling. Samantha inquires what it is, and Twisty makes the remark that this is the room of the butcher, and it's a good thing he isn't here with us. We then find another note that reads as follows. I met a boy while scouring abandoned buildings for shelter. He's about my age too, and he's been living on the streets for quite some time. We're starting to grow close, and it's almost as if we were meant to find one another. Not only for survival, but maybe to have at least one friend each of us can trust in this messed up world. Before him, the only ones I could call my friends, in quotations, were the devil. The voices in my head, and my imaginary friend Twisty. Man, I'm so messed up inside. This makes me more confused as to who she took her life for. Was it for her brother or for her lover? I honestly can't tell at this point. Nevertheless, we must continue. When we walk upstairs into what looks like an old house, and the music becomes calm. It's unnerving. Samantha then comments, "This is the first place I ever lived in by myself." This is one of Samantha's memories. Twisty then follows up with, "Yeah, this is the first time you kidnapped and killed them too." We then pick up another note which reads as follows. We found a permanent solution to our shelter problem. A nice secluded home with only a single woman living there. It was perfect. That machete we brought along really came in handy to rid our guest of her burden. I mean, I'm sure she was lonely out there and it was hard to maintain it all by herself. We needed it more than her, and I'm sure she's in a better place anyway. Or so the Bible by her bed always told her. P.S. Her grandchildren were visiting, but oh well, ha ha. We then hear crying in the background of the game. Soon enough, we come to walk into what looks like a basement door with Twisty commenting, "Remember how you kept your victims down here?" Now, I need to make something very clear. I'm about to explain something very disturbing and disgusting, and something that made me sick to my core. It's hard to really explain it without being demonetized, and I implore you that if you don't take... Sorry, I'm honestly sorry, I'm still shaken up by this. I know it's hard to tell, but inside I just don't know. But if you can't take some information, well, please skip to the timestamp on screen. I'm being 200% serious about this. I know I often make jokes in my other videos, but this honestly shook me, because of how messed up it is. I'll give you a few more seconds to skip before I continue. Alright, for those who stuck around, let's get into it. The uploader has cut out the audio, the video itself, but left the audio in. We hear what I can only describe as a woman and a child crying. There are clear signs of physical harm throughout the audio, not only from the woman but the child, as we hear other noises within the audio which I don't want to describe. We even hear a man mumbling something in the background, confirming that someone is taking out these actions. I couldn't quite make out what he was saying, but if I'm being honest, I don't want to roll back the audio to hear it again. This goes on for a while, leaving you in utter shock as you listen to it. It just seems like it goes on forever. By the time it finishes, so does the uploader. I'm guessing he didn't really want to play it afterwards either. I was honestly left speechless and even reconsidered making this video altogether, knowing what could possibly be behind it. That cut video. I was even planning on playing the game myself to get a raw reaction till I realized what I could be stumbling upon. This is what I meant when I said I wouldn't provide a link or name to the second video. Now, for those who skipped, just know there's a reason why I didn't provide a link or name to the video. Those who stuck around now know. Unfortunately, this isn't where the rabbit hole ends. We now find ourselves on the subreddit that I mentioned earlier. There aren't many members, and they seem to be more confused than I am as to what this game is. One post that immediately caught my eye was this. Where is the photo of Samantha Blackwell from? It might lead to where this game is from. Now, immediately I come to think, there's a photo of this girl. There was only one reply to the thread, which stated, I never really looked into it, but possibly I know that a lot of the stuff within the game I have looked up or recognized is linked to true crime and other real life cases. Kind of like a bunch of Easter eggs, so it could be from something similar. The next post gives more clarification on the game made by the same guy we just saw comment from the earlier question. It appears that he runs the subreddit and claims that there is no illegal material within the game, but as it turns out, this could be a stretch. We also get clarification on the Gore, that they are representations of the crimes that Samantha has committed, but to be fair, we could have probably already inferred that given what we already knew about her. Scrolling down, we finally get an image of Samantha. No one seems to really know who she is. Reverse image searching yields no results. I do have a theory that the face of this woman is likely a result of thispersondoesnotexist.com, an algorithm that puts facial features together to create people who, well, don't exist. I think whoever made this game used this website to get an image of a random woman to use as Samantha. Well, I hope that's the case. Moving on, someone else on the subreddit asked how old the game was. The subreddit creator mentioned that it got passed around in a group chat supposedly, and that he didn't really have much of an idea as to when it could have been created. I was honestly thinking of messaging the creator of the subreddit, but it doesn't seem like he's been active on Reddit anymore. Or at least on that account given his last post was over a year ago. While reading the comments, I kept thinking about that audio I heard from the video. I was concerned as to what was behind that censor. Unfortunately, as it seems, my worst concerns were very possibly real. I scrolled down to see the gameplays. I didn't watch them, but I was looking towards the comments and scrolling through them. One of them had around 16 comments, so I figured if there's that many, it might be referring to that audio, and it seems that I was correct. When I went to the comments to see what people were thinking of, well, it was exactly what I thought it was, and I'm gonna leave a screenshot as to what was the description of it. You can skip to the timestamp on screen if you don't want to read it. Okay, well, there's been a few seconds, so I'm just gonna bump it up now for a couple seconds. You can pause and read. Now, one other person did claim that supposedly they had seen this video from some fetish video, and that the woman in the clip was supposedly 18, but something just doesn't seem right about it. And the OP is very, well, I guess the creator of the subreddit is very persistent that there is nothing illegal in the game whatsoever. But just given by the general controversy that I had noticed from the comments section about it, it really does make me think as to whether or not it actually was. And I'm not one to assume, but if the OP hasn't uploaded in a while, could there have been something on there? And is that why he isn't talking? I'm sure it's not likely that, and that maybe he just got bored and stopped talking on there. But something just still isn't sitting right with me. That's all I can really say. Well, if you skipped ahead, well, we just had a big talk about it. And it was a big debate as to whether or not what that clip was actually abuse material or not. But we're just gonna move on to the final theories and ending part of this documentary. As for the final theories of the game, as well as the creator and their mindset, I have two. My first one is that the Lost Reality 999 account and the other one that I won't name are run by the same individual, given the similar fonts and talking styles in their intro. but my theory doesn't end there. I think the person who ran these channels is also the creator of the game. This is a stretch, but I believe so because of this censor that the Lost Reality channel used. Their style is very on par with the art and drawings shown in the game, which makes me believe that this is them making these gameplays. Now, as for the mindset of the creator and the reason why they made this, while it's a bump up from Sad Satan, because, you know, it has an actual story to it, I still see it as something created by some edgelord that wanted to traumatize some people by using real gore of people who had died and possibly even abuse material just to show off some supposed story. I personally think that all downloads to this game should be removed, and that possibly even law enforcement should take a look into the game to confirm whether or not that audio was abuse material. As for things, I think this is the end of the documentary. Now look, the internet can be a scary place, so can the real world. This might sound a bit awkward to add in the end of a video, but when I started looking into God more and more in his teachings, there was one phrase that always stood out to me the most and helped me through times where I struggled a lot. And as simple as it was this. It's been around 2 weeks since I covered the case, which was the dark web horror game Anamnesis. So far in those 2 weeks, we've been able to acquire some new information on the contents of the game, giving us answers to some questions we were stumped on, as well as something else that I forgot to point out in the last video. For those unaware, Anamnesis is a relatively unknown dark web horror game that contains several instances of gore, voluminous, and possibly This is only an update video. If you want the full breakdown of what we know about the game currently, please go to the description or the pinned comment below and watch the full documentary for yourself so you're up to speed on the current situation. As the thing I wanted to point out from the last video, I have reason to believe that the uploader of the 2 videos I discussed in the documentary are not only the same person, but the creator of the game, given their intro and talking style are incredibly similar to the in-game notes, even down to the font being used. That being said, onto the new information and updates. One of the first obstacles we had was the reversed audio. At first I thought it said, "Sorry, it is a medicine," but after talking to an online friend, he suspected it was actually saying, "Suicide is a medicine." And later, someone in my comments would stretch and slow it enough to where it actually says, "It is a medicine, suicide." This actually makes sense given the context of the game, where Samantha Blackwell, the person we play as, takes her own life at the beginning of the game, due to the pain she feels on the inside. I think what the creator is trying to compare suicide to is a painkiller to end all painkillers, if that makes any sense. Nevertheless, we need to move on to the more abrupt topic at hand. The second audio from the second video. I originally believed this to be some sort of torture video, including a minor, until someone in my comments who had actually viewed that part of the game clarified to me that the video actually included a woman who had been, well, immobilized via all of her limbs being cut off, and had a large part of her face split open. Now, this sounded awfully familiar to the Miss Pac-Man video, which I highly suggest you don't look up for your own mental sake. I had my doubts though, because one, the description was slightly different compared to the Miss Pac-Man video, in that all the woman's limbs in the supposed audio were missing, whereas in the Miss Pac-Man video she only had her hands severed. My other point, of course, was that was what sounded like a child in the background crying too. This, although, is a much weaker argument, given that supposedly in the Miss Pac-Man video, you can hear children screaming in the background. Now, my main argument for this being different is that the man in the video sounds like an English speaker, not a Spanish one. The Miss Pac-Man video originates from Guatemala, Guatemala. Certainly not any English-speaking country. Another thing I wanted to point out too was that in the Miss Pac-Man video, the perpetrators of the attack were long gone, and if I remember correctly, the people recording it were either her neighbors or the police. Whereas in this audio, it sounds like the person there is the one inflicting the torture. Now, of course, I didn't want to compare the videos to find out, and neither did the commenter either from the looks of it. Now, what I do know is that for some reason the audio to the Miss Pac-Man video is actually available on YouTube, although I won't be providing a link to such material. And I reluctantly went to give it a listen to see if it sounded any similar to the audio in game, and if I'm being completely honest, it sounds nothing like the in-game audio at all. This only leaves room for more speculation as to who the woman in the audio is and who the man is carrying out the act in the audio. Now, the commenter also verified that he couldn't see any children in the video, luckily, although he agrees that there could have been some in the background watching the whole ordeal happen before them, which is honestly just upsetting, watching someone who is likely their own mother get butchered in front of them. It really makes you think what goes on in these people's heads to carry out such acts, knowing fully well that the individual they are doing these acts on is a parent with kids to look after, let alone doing the act in front of that person's kids. Now, there's one more thing the commenter mentioned, which was that while it's pretty obvious that most of the game voice lines are AI generated, Samantha's father's voice sounds genuinely real apparently, and could be the voice of the creator. I never got to a point where I heard the father's voice, but it now honestly seems like the newest topic of interest in the fact that if we can find out who voiced the father, we can possibly figure out who made this game. Now, those are the main updates. Regarding the game, there's actually another thing I wanted to add, and that was that two friends and I, who will remain anonymous, actually played the beginning of the game on a Discord call to see if we could find out anything more about the creator, or just any extra information we would have missed from the censors. We only agreed to play the beginning of the game to prevent us coming across any unwanted material later down the game, such as the vacuum seal, which is down way further in the game as it seems from the subreddit and the gameplay parts. When we opened the game, we made it to the title screen and we clicked around a little bit until we found a button relating to the creators. When we clicked on it, we got greeted with what looked like either someone's leg or the back of someone's head, who had been gashed open, just completely cut open, with some art of someone's head drawn on top with X's covering their eyes. We were taken aback a bit from the discovery, but laughed nervously from the fact that the art sort of resembled Kim Jong-un of all people. Nevertheless, we pressed play, and when through opening cuts, sorry, I'm stuttering, but when we went through the opening cutscene about Samantha taking her own life, we got flashed with images of homicide photos, likely relating to the fact she was a killer. What really stood out was that in all these homicide photos, all the victims were naked, although it was often hard to tell how they died given the sheer amount of blood present in the photos. Once we got to the suicide of Samantha, it showed a video of a woman hanging herself, which watching it was absolutely unsettling and sad. What disturbed us the most was how the woman swung around the room after dying. Playing the game was near impossible as it was incredibly buggy and not much happened until we got to Samantha's workroom, where we got to see the quote-unquote red room video. It's just 3 still images. The first is a man tied up, the second is his severed arms, and the third is his severed head, with the generic chainsaw and scream stock sound in the background. By this point we had enough of the game and deleted it due to how incredibly buggy it was, leading us to having us to repeat some parts due to just us glitching out of the map repeatedly. I'm sure it probably wasn't the outcome you wanted, but we had honestly just had enough because of how genuinely unplayable the game was. It just felt like we just had to keep restarting it and going through those images over and over again, just to glitch out at around the same point. Now that that's out of the way, that concludes this short update video regarding the game and its contents. I'm hoping soon enough we'll have more info on the game as well as some possible answers as to who the creator is. I hope you guys stay safe on the internet and not go looking for things like this. Remember to stay safe, God bless you, and I'll see you another time. Well, we're back here. I wasn't actually expecting to make a further update regarding this game until recently when new footage came out from the game. So if you're curious, out of nowhere I actually got commented on by an account by the name of Total Chaos. As it turns out, he's actually played the full game and uploaded it on YouTube with some censoring. Although, something I do have to point out is that some parts aren't even censored at all. So just as a warning to those that are curious, that some parts of the video aren't really censored. Upon reading the description of his video, it doesn't really take long to realize that this game can really mess you up as an individual. Which is why, of course, there's no link to the actual game in the description. I'll just read out what he says here. No link, it should be obvious why. Don't play this. Sad Satan is not even half as disgusting as this one. Should be enough to explain why the uploader, which from now I'll be going on to call Chaos, even seems to agree with me that my theory that this game is likely made by an edgelord looking for attention. Which, as it says here, by the way, that this game is from the dark web is clickbait. I mean, it should be clear, right? This game was made by only one very bored dude, most likely. So before this nonsense spreads, just because a game has a JPEG Gore pictures doesn't mean it comes from the deep or dark web, okay? Shivers, never again. And this game goes right in the trash where it belongs. Which, I agree, this game is just edgelord material, similar to Sad Satan. Although, of course, we do have to still look into what this gameplay has. So, let's see what Total Chaos found. So I've skipped quite a way ahead to where we got up to in the first part of the documentary where, we made it to the old house in the outskirts with the disturbing audio, which was actually later found out to be from the Miss Pac-Man video I mean. Thanks to the user by the name of Evangelist Gleno4339, who has been an absolutely amazing help throughout this investigation, and a lot of the discoveries go out to him. Now, unfortunately, I've been able to relocate the comment regarding this discovery, although once again I must reiterate that this user has properly identified the audio from the room, which I think deserves a huge round of applause for going through not only the audio from the game, but also the Miss Pac-Man video itself to identify it. And believe me, that video is something of a nightmare. Carrying on from where we left off, we are presented with a doorway that is set alight to only then teleport us to a playground. Another memory which is confirmed by Samantha asking, "Why is my mind bringing me here?" Followed by Twisty replying, "I don't know, but I'd watch the shadows." As this happened, our uploader is attacked by some kind of enemy that crawls on the ground. It plays this generic child laughter noise, which is honestly pretty unsettling given all the gore present in the game. Eventually there's another doorway with fire leading us into a classroom. The place is absolutely run down and has sort of a nostalgic or liminal feeling to it, if you get what I mean. This doesn't last for long as the screen cuts off to a tape recording. This tape recording obviously is an AI and it's honestly really disturbing to listen to, as it's some sort of interrogation regarding a girl named Beth, although I think the creator of the game was referring to the girl as Samantha. The interrogation is genuinely disturbing as this little girl recounts wanting to cause harm on her family, and we even get given accounts of actual acts she's done already. If you figured it out already, this audio is ripped from an interview with Beth Thomas. I won't go too far into the case, but all you really need to know is that Beth was abused heavily at a young age, causing her to develop RAD disorder or reactive attachment disorder, causing her to act in such a way. This is a pretty rare disorder which can develop in kids if they're neglected at an extremely young age, causing them to lack empathy or remorse for others around them. This often leads to the child being unable to create healthy relationships throughout life and to even act like the way Beth did in the interviews. I'll play the audio right now so you can get an idea.
Who's afraid of you, Beth?
John,
Your brother. And why is your brother afraid of you?
because I hurt him so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And at nighttime, what do your parents do to your door?
Lock it shut,
Why do they lock it shut?
because they don't want me to hurt John.
Right. And they're kind of afraid of hurting John? Of you hurting John?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are they afraid that you might hurt them?
Yep.
Would you, Beth? When would you do it?
Nighttime.
Okay. Why would you do nighttime?
Because I don't like them seeing me do it. But they can feel me do it.
And what would you do to him, Beth? Okay. What would you stick him with?
A knife.
Do you ever stick pins in people? Who?
My brother.
Okay. Do you do it a little bit or a lot?
A lot.
Okay. And what are you trying to do to your brother?
So,
Why do you want your brother to die?
because I was hurt so bad, and I don't want to be around people.
Okay. Who else would you like to stick pins into?
Mommy and Daddy.
What would you like to have happen to them?
Die.
But this kind of aggression at our animals and even at our brother Jonathan was beginning to grow to such an excess that our life was miserable at home. John would cry in the mornings and say his stomach hurt. For the longest time, we thought maybe this child has some problem with his intestinal area, or maybe he has allergies, and so we're trying to get all that checked out. Come to find out, Beth was coming out of her room and hitting him in the stomach. And so, as a last resort, just to protect him, we had to tie our door shut. So I guess for the last 3 or 4 months now, we've had to tie her in at night, sort of barricade her.
We then enter the attic where we find a small satanic ritual, followed by Twisty commenting, "Look, Samantha, the day we first became friends," followed by a piece of paper I'm just gonna throw up on screen because I'm not reading this out loud given its context. Then the uploader goes downstairs and another interrogation audio plays. Once again it's from the Beth Thomas interviews. This audio is flat out describing a which is why I'm gonna leave up a timestamp for those who don't want to listen to the audio. I'll give you a few seconds to skip. The audio will play now.
Do you have animals, Beth?
4 of them.
Can you tell me their names?
Clyde, Shuggy, Darcy, and Annie.
And what do you do to the animals, Beth?
Stick them with pins.
Do you stick them a little bit or a lot?
A lot.
What are you trying to do to the animals, Beth?
Kill them.
What do they do when you stick them with the pins?
Well, Annie cries. She's a dog.
She got baby birds down out of the nest, and we thought maybe she was just curious. So we explained that she could hurt them, put them back, and went through a whole sitting down and talking to her about the problem of it. And the next day we went out to check the baby birds, and they were on the ground dead with their necks broken.
With the baby birds, what did you do?
Took them out of the tree.
And what did you do with them?
Played around to Also, when at the end, I picked it up and I thought it was Dad, and I came to say, "Mommy, is this bird dead?" And she said, she called Daddy and said, "Tim?" And Daddy came and, I think I remember that they said yes.
Mm-hmm. And so the little baby birds die?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I just remember that I remember that Mommy and Daddy said the last bird we got was dead.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what Mom said to me? She said that all of them were dead. Did you squeeze them? Did Baby Beth squeeze them? You're doing a good job, honey. Go ahead and tell me what happened.
I squeezed them.
And what happened?
They died.
To those who skipped, let's move on. We then enter a bathroom with a blow-up clown, which Samantha comments, "I've always hated that clown." There's a door that's ajar open, although the uploader seems to be unable to get through. He then walks down to the kitchen for another interview to play, describing Beth who had stolen knives from the kitchen in order to kill her family. The audio will play now so you can have a listen. The upload
Well, I noticed several, like paring knives in the kitchen missing. And my first thought was Beth. And I felt a little guilty about it at first. I thought, no. But I really didn't even mention it to her. They had been gone several weeks. She was sitting at the table drawing and mentioned to me, "What do those knives look like that are gone, Mom?" And I said, "What knives, Beth?" And she said, "Weren't they kind of silver and about this big?" And I knew then, and then this little smile that's not a sweet smile, but a malicious type of smile. And I knew then, I thought, she's got them.
Tell me about the knives. Where did you get them?
From the drawer.
And where else? Do you remember? Tell me about it.
I got them from the dishwasher.
What kind of knives?
Big sharp ones.
And what do you want to do with those knives?
Kill John and Mommy with them, and Daddy.
And when Mommy asks you about where the knives are, what do you say?
I don't know where they are.
What did you think she might do with the knives?
My first thought was Jonathan.
And the reason we thought that was that she had, by this time, she had tried to kill John on several occasions and openly admitted that.
The uploader then finds a note on the ground, although to be honest I can barely read any of what it says due to the font and the quality of the video, although luckily the second slide makes it easier to read given there's an actual text. It reads as follows. "We can't find her. We have looked everywhere and she's nowhere to be found. We've called the FBI and they can't seem to locate her. She must have snuck out during the night. I must have forgotten to lock the door. We found Daisy, our loving dog, dead too, throat slashed and blood all over. And not just that, John is in the hospital. We don't know if he'll make it and I have no idea what to do. I'm going crazy and I can't stop crying. My husband is doing nothing but blaming me about letting her stay with us and just trying to love her. I mean, how is it my fault that I would know that she would be so corrupt and full of whatever the hell she has in her? It must be the devil. That sweet little girl must have the devil in her. I hope the FBI finds her and locks her in an asylum, because God knows we have no answer for help. I don't think anyone does. I really hope John makes it, or else I'll never forgive myself, and I know my husband won't either. I'm not going to blaspheme on this part here. This note gives us new insight as to, I guess, a broader backstory to Samantha, as we see she has always been a violent individual from a very early age. What we can grasp is that the tapes we had prior, the tapes we heard prior were indicators to the actions we'd read out in the following note. These were warning signs that Samantha would eventually go overboard, even to her degree with violence. We find another note that reads as follows. I'm concerned with the girl who arrived. She came from a really messed up family. Their house was all over the news and she remembers nothing of it, which I am kind of glad for. The only thing she remembers is her name, Beth. At first she was nothing but sweet, but as more time has passed, about a month now, there's been really concerning incidents. Me and my husband are looking to possibly get her treatment as we do not know what to do. She keeps trying to kill one of the other foster children. We have no idea why. His name is John and he's such a sweet boy. We have even had to start locking Beth in her room at night, because whenever we don't, she finds a way to sneak out and we wake up to John's screams in the middle of the night. On many occasions I have found knives Beth has stolen from the kitchen, as well as other odd objects from around the house she has constructed into weapons. Last night she stabbed my husband while we were watching TV. She says it was by accident, but I'm really starting to doubt that she can be saved. We have tried church, we've brought in a doctor to come and talk to her, and we even tried some medication that seemed to be working until one night we woke up to our family dog stabbed in the eye and howling in the corner. Beth was nowhere to be found and was eventually hiding in the downstairs closet. She said she had no idea what happened to him, but I know she was lying. I don't know what they did to her since birth, but from the reports I can only imagine. So we also found her one night trying to climb out of her second-story window. She said to escape since we had to board it up. We thought we were doing a good deed holding on to her and giving her a possible loving home while we wait for the FBI to finish their investigation and get her into the system. but they have not returned our calls, and after all these incidents, I don't know what we want to adopt her anymore. Just another grammatical mistake that this text has made. It could be the death of us, or another innocent life here. Me and my husband are scared and don't know what to do. It appears to have been a note that should have been read before the other note we read prior. Something I want to point out is that the name Beth is mentioned. Now, I could go on a rant and say there's another girl in this lore that's doing all these killings, but I mainly think given how poorly this game is put together, it's likely the name Samantha was supposed to be in place of Beth's name, but the creator never double-checked the message after going through the interview audios. The uploader then heads to the basement, which plays another interview audio which documents an attack Beth perpetrated on her stepbrother. I'm going to leave a timestamp up on the screen if you want to skip this audio because it's pretty disturbing with how they describe the ordeal. I'm going to play the audio now.
In the basement, she was hitting his head against a cement floor. I heard his screams and ran down and had to literally pull her hands off, and she looked wild-eyed.
Did you get real mad at him? Did you hit his head real hard? Tell me about it. How many times did you do it? A lot? What was the floor like?
Cement.
And what happened to your brother? Tell me about it.
His head hurt real bad, but his chin, he had to have stitches in it.
Could you stop? Use your words, Beth.
No.
Okay. What was your brother doing when you were doing this?
Playing with the toys.
Okay. Was he asking you to stop when you were doing it? What was he saying?
He was saying, Beth, stop.
And what did you do?
That didn't stop. I just kept on hurting him.
What were you thinking when you were doing that?
Thinking of killing him.
How did you stop? What made you stop?
When I heard Peter walking across the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
It made me stop because I thought Mommy and Daddy would come.
Okay. Did Mommy come? What did she do?
She sent me to my room.
Okay. And what if Mom didn't stop you? What would you have done?
Kept on doing it.
And now that the audio is out of the way, the uploader encounters a small pitch-black child which seems to attack him out of nowhere, which he has to kill in order to progress. As he moves his way through the basement, he comes across another note which reads as follows. Running away from that stupid foster place was the best decision of my life now that I think back. They would have for sure locked me away forever. I hated them all, their stupid church stuff, their constant nagging and do-good attitude. In fact, their little buddy John, I read in a paper after the fact that he did not die. I was sure I put that knife in through his chest and hit a vital part, but I guess not. Figures. I always wondered why or how I was never caught. They always told me God punished every sinner, but if that was true, then why are there so many demons and sinners running around without a scratch? Sometimes I wonder whether I should have taken the path of light instead of the things I've done, and do the way I am. I know deep down not even God would have accepted me. Only a devil would praise behavior in a lifestyle like this. This note is referring to Samantha escaping from a foster home and ridiculing the church. This is an ongoing trend with the game with its mockery of Christianity. This only furthers my point that this game was likely made by some sort of edgelord satanic LARPer. But my personal opinion's out of the way. We find another note detailing Samantha and her brother when they presumably killed an old woman at the building of the outskirts. It reads as follows, although you'll also notice another crudely drawn picture followed by a text I won't say out loud. Either way, once again, I'll reiterate, this is the message. Me and the bro figured out such a great solution to our where the F do we hide this body problem. The OA bought us a cemetery. It's run completely legit. The only thing is we are in control, which means we can add new graves or bury our friends under other caskets. There is even an oven nearby to leave no trace of ashes, haha. It's perfect. No more acid barrels or finding strategic ways to dispose. We are thinking of purchasing many more as this one is already damn near at capacity, with only a few spaces left. business has really been booming lately. At this point we're teleported to an old cemetery where we're greeted by a demon. Unlike the other character dialogues, this one clearly isn't AI but has a filter on top of it. I'm actually going to let you see the conversation so you can understand how edgy and low quality this game is.
Well, hello, Satan's finest.
Who are you?
You should ask your brother who I am. Oh wait, I forgot. You can't talk without a head. You and your brother sure did bury a lot of innocent souls out here. But don't worry, you'll be one of those souls soon, and you and him can reminisce in hell.
Fuck you.
We will be fucking you soon enough. The devil has big plans for you.
Don't pay attention to him, Samantha. He is no one special.
I'd show some respect to an upper-ranked demon if I were you, you goofy-voiced little bitch.
Respect these nuts.
Yes.
Everyone shut up. Is this really how demons act?
Yeah, actual rank.
Yes.
I do not understand.
Let's just keep moving.
So after that horrid conversation, the uploader has to fight his way through zombies and crows in the cemetery, which leads to the uploader being flashed with gore, although he censored it in the editing process. As the uploader goes around the graveyard, he's flashed with more and more gore from the photos, all being censored by him as well in the editing process. He eventually gets teleported into a burning forest, followed by Samantha asking, "Is this what hell really looks like?" Followed by Twisty replying, "Some say the mind is worse than hell, it's different for everyone." The uploader then makes it into what looks like a swamp. The uploader then has to fight another zombie-like Christian NPC that screams she's not a Christian, followed by the screen cutting to static. We then hear a voice who we assume is Samantha's father. The voice is clearly voice acted and is clear. He is explaining how to kill and gut someone while berating someone who I assume is her brother for not being as good as Samantha. When he explains the gutting process, the video is censored, likely showing a disemboweled corpse, although I can imagine the uploader Total Chaos can likely clarify on the gore if he so chooses to. All the sound effects and groans are clearly stock audios, which is why I'm going to play the clip, since I know they aren't real. The clip will play now.
Why can't any of you be more like Samantha? Look how easy it is. You bitches need to shape up. Now that we put him down and he's not going anywhere, now we get to gut him. Watch closely. I won't be around forever to show you all this. You want to cut him deep and hold the knife firm. This is exactly like how we did with the animals. I'll show you all this time, but next time, one of you needs to step up and get dirty. See, this is his heart. That's good eating right there.
Now that the clip's finished, the uploader is flashed with more gore, which they had to censor, followed by them fighting more enemies. After fighting through them, they are once again flashed with gore on their screen. We then seem to make it into an abandoned house of sorts, which has a pentagram in the middle, followed by more gore flashed. A random audio of the father plays detailing how he's going to teach the kids how to hunt. There's nothing really else to it, so I'm not going to play you the audio. This is clearly just another memory of Samantha's, like with the classroom in the older house. Either way, we make it out of the abandoned house and into a tunnel where we hear Twisty say, "This is not good," followed by Samantha saying, "What do you mean?" This is then replied with Twisty saying, "The butcher." We're actually where the original uploader, who I suspect to be the creator of the game, started at in the first video I discovered, so we're going to skip past this a bit. I want to point out that for the videos that got flashed in the original videos in this case, Chaos hasn't censored them completely, but instead either blurred them or cropped them. So at the suicide medicine audio, we can clearly see a cropped video of what I'm suspecting is a suicide being documented. It's really up to speculation. You can kind of see what looks like someone's neck, which makes me think that this may have been a hanging, although I could be wrong in that case. Something that wasn't censored, although, was the floor texture, which is why I've warned you prior to watching this gameplay. The entire floor seems to be a repeated texture of someone's completely mutilated face. I'm not even joking. Here's a poorly illustration. Sorry, this is a poorly made illustration of what I mean. Once we get past the part from the original uploader's video, we enter what seems to be a maze of eyes, followed by the symbol of the OA. We also hear very loud whispers accompanying the uploader as they traverse through it, followed by a sinister laugh. I can't quite tell what Twisty says in the first part, but he mentions that we are close. I'll play the audio here to see if you can figure out anything.
Stay on your toes. We are close.
Close to what? Twisty.
Samantha then inquires, close to what, Twisty? We then walk into a black-red room filled with eyes and red laughter with this really disturbing texture of someone's eyes. Upon turning around, we see a clown laughing and jumping up and down, with Samantha once again proclaiming, "I hate clowns." Now, this is where I get really annoyed. This is a game filled with gore and supposedly serious, yet you decide to add a Joker reference with Twisty replying, "Why so serious?" It just seems like the dev doesn't even care anymore.
I fucking hate clowns.
Samantha, why so serious?
Either way, the uploader continues walking The uploader continues walking while another clown appears, although does nothing, and then we're flashed with Gore again. Eventually we fall into a long and wide hallway with Samantha asking, "How long is this place?" The uploader has to fight off these clowns now while being flashed with Gore. We seem to go into a loop from the original red and black maze as Samantha asks, "How many more times do I have to do this?" The only difference is now the uploader has to fight off the clowns in the maze. Then we get another note that reads as follows. "I've been killing more and more lately since he's been gone. It doesn't fill me with the emptiness I feel. It's something that once brought me so much joy, now brings me nothing but hatred, coldness, just nothing. Who gives an F about anything anymore? No amount of money, power, killing, or anything at all can help me with this. Maybe if I die too, I can meet him on the other side and we can be together forever. Maybe I can leave these notes for someone else in the future so they don't make the same mistakes I did. Or maybe so all this madness can end with me. You can't go back when it's too late, and all I want is my brother back. Should I have left together when we had the chance, or gone into a job or a spot that was less corrosive on our mental? Satan knows it. It was eating away our sanity and souls. Every kill, every kidnapping, every torture, every single life lost. All the evil things we did throughout the years. My soul probably looks as black as the bottom of the Mariana Trenches. I can see why it's called Obsidian Abs. No matter what color bird you were inside before, this life will turn you as dark as the color itself." To me, it just sort of shows the mental deterioration of Samantha from the loss of her brother. Not even killing itself healed her eternal conflicts with the loss of a loved one. It's something we've all experienced at some point, but of course, you know, without the killing. Isn't that? But Samantha, it seemed lethal for her. Once the uploader finishes reading the note, everything becomes hellfire as flames erupt around us, and we can audibly hear Samantha cough. Samantha then asks, "The fire isn't burning me. Why?" Twisty responds with, "Well, you wanted to know what hell was like. It's like this, but with more pain and fire." As the uploader makes his way around the fire, we then see a video of a crowd burning something as it's abruptly censored, making me believe that this was likely from a third world country of someone being burnt alive, likely for over a year, or killing someone by a mob. Although that's just my speculation. The uploader eventually makes it into a sewer of water, being fully submerged, when you can see Twisty swimming around and taunting her, saying, "What's wrong, Samantha? Can't you swim?" I'll be completely honest, this was actually kind of funny seeing Twisty swimming around, but I'm getting off track. Eventually we seem to make it out into a forest and we can audibly hear Samantha sputtering out water saying, "I almost drowned." This is followed by Twisty saying, "You don't know the half of it." We then find a noose by a tree with Samantha commenting, "I feel like I've been here from a long time ago." We then get flashed with a drawing of a girl hanging herself, likely being Samantha. Samantha then asks, "What is this place?" We then get flashed with Gore on the screen once again. We eventually make it into a house and we're greeted with a dining room connected to a kitchen. We get, I guess, a cutscene which is once again voice acted by who I can guess is only the creator of the game. I'm guessing Samantha's father flipped the table in the audio, and it's likely abuse. We're given the context followed by a stock sound of a baby crying. Despite how poorly done it is, it's not hard to understand why some people wouldn't be okay with hearing this short clip. Skip to the timestamp on the screen if you don't wish to hear it. I'm gonna play the audio now.
When are you gonna learn how to cook, bitch? This tastes like straight ass. Bitch! All that little son of a bitch does is cry. Clean that shit up now and give it to the animals outside. And shut that fucking kid up.
After that, the uploader makes a weird discovery that every time you go up to the counter, Samantha will randomly comment, "It is bread." We don't see this identification feature anywhere else in the game. Likely just a small Easter egg for the curious.
It is bread. It is bread. It is bread. It is bread. It is bread.
Upon entering the next room, we get another still image for a cutscene with the father. We see a bunch of cages followed by the father. He tells the kids to get into their cages because the news is on, followed by an AI voice of the mother telling the kids to listen. I'm not even going to show you this audio because there was no way this was a stock audio of a baby crying. It sounded like an actual raw recording, which is why I'm not going to play it at all because it's honestly really distressing. We then see a news segment which is just a slowed pitch of the creator's voice detailing news that there's a serial killer in the loose tying in with Samantha's father's killings. I'm going to play you the audio now.
Residents in the small town of Gore are on edge. They're worried that a serial killer might be on the loose. So in the past year, 6 women have gone missing, 4 have turned up dead, and local authorities have requested now federal assistance to find the person or the persons involved. Local law enforcement says that they've identified a suspect in one of these cases, but they've not connected that individual to the other cases, leaving people in that area with a lot of questions. Joining me now is a reporter with the Gazette who has been covering these missing person cases extensively. So this has been going on for a year, as I understand it, and just now it's bubbling to the surface. Why is it now just bubbling to the surface, or at least the connection of the dots, so to speak?
Well, initially, the first 2 women disappeared last May. One was found, her body was found, and the other missing woman was never, we have not found her yet. So the case continued throughout the year, and then another woman disappeared in November, and then a 4th disappeared in December, and she was found, her body was found in another river nearby. Then another woman disappeared this early May. Her body was the most recent one found, and then another unrelated woman who was never reported missing, her body was found shortly before the most recent woman.
So what is the connection at all between the victims? Have they been able to string together any type of evidence that would make them think that they have a serial killer on the loose?
Well, authorities are not ruling out anything at this point. They have not said it is a serial killer. They have not said it is not. They're taking tips a day at a time.
We go upstairs, we find a bedroom riddled with little drawings until we find a note that looks like Samantha trying to smother her baby brother to death with a writing, saying, "Mum will be so proud when I get the baby to sleep," in a young kid's grammar. We then get flashed with what I can only say is to be a demonic photo in general. A demon with what looks like a body of an axolotl with skinned hanging bodies in the background. Going into the parents' bedroom, we get a note that reads as follows. Why did I even think to even agree to having kids with this monster? I know deep in my heart that he isn't going to let us go like he promised. He's corrupted all our daughters' minds, and now Samantha has effing killed my baby, her little sister Bella. I mean, how the F could she? What has this monster done to my children? I really need to get them out of here, but how? But when? I've held all my tongue for years, hoping, praying he lets us go finally. I blame my oldest for Bella's death as well, as she sat there and watched Samantha holding an effing gun to her body. I mean, baby sister's head. I mean, what type of demon children have been brought into this world? They are still my own though, and I cannot abandon them for once. But once I get the chance, we are running. We're doing something. You cannot come between a mama bear and her cubs. I don't care if this man is the devil himself. For years I feared he may actually be. Upon reading this, it's obviously showing the grief and the regret in the mother's life choices with her current situation, losing her youngest and living with a literal monster. It's scary knowing that some households can be like this in real life. Not to this degree, of course, but with the abuse. It's more than real. There's a ladder in the far left corner of the room, and upon jumping down, we're greeted with a giant hallway. Upon walking down, there's only what I can describe to be straight up a cow with all its limbs cut off, with the audio of the father telling his kids how to make him proud. The father tells them that killing humans is just like killing animals. Now there's an audio of who I assume to be one of Samantha's sisters crying over it, because it's an animal. I think it's clipped from a movie, although I could be wrong, which is why I'm not gonna play you the audio. Samantha asks for the knife, and the father berates the other two for not being like her, and then we hear a stock sound of a cow followed by a stabbing noise. We're then flashed with the woman out, which is censored by the uploader. The father then congratulates her over killing. As we walk through the hallway more, we get flashed with more evil woman out, as Samantha claims that they need to go into the big leagues to be like their father, and to use what they've learned. As the sensitive Bulmads is shown, we hear a generic stock audio of kids laughing, which I think is genuinely a sick aspect added to a game considering everything else. The screen turns to static as the father announces a surprise coming later on, but gives out knives to the kids as presents, and we get a few images of random knives flashed onto the screen for context. I'll roll the clip now.
Did we make you proud, Dad?
You don't know how proud I am of you girls. I have a surprise for you coming this week, but for now, here's a present for each of you. When I was your age, my dad gave me a knife after my first hunts, and now I'm doing the same. Now be careful, don't go cutting yourself. Others are fine.
Now, after that, we continue down the hallway, and we get another audio of the father claiming the surprise is here. We then get flashed with an image likely from a cartel video of a man tied to the ground. Now, I'm not going to play the audio because because the father says something honestly just genuinely bloody deplorable. And while yes, the context is going to the first to be killing the first man, you know, it's your first kill, but the what he said is so bloody degenerate considering he's talking to little girls about this. Believe me, if you listen to the audio yourself, which I don't recommend, you'll understand what I mean. In the end, they kill the man, and it flashes Gore, which was censored in the editing process. The father berates the two for being cowards and explains how they'll cut up the body and hide it, which is where I'm guessing we would see a dismembered corpse, although it's been censored by the uploader. At the end of the hallway, we hear Samantha say, "Come here, baby," followed by a baby crying. I'm not even going to censor this, I'm just not even going to show it at all. It's this photo of a mother and her baby. The only problem is that the mother is directly holding a gun towards the baby's head and smiling like some sick freak. We then hear a gunshot with static as we hear a woman cry about her baby, likely Samantha's mother. We're then brought back to the hallway, and then after that we hear Samantha run as we get a video of someone running, likely recorded by the developer, as we hear a scream and then a stock video of water applying an attempted drowning by the father. We then make it into this random room that genuinely seems out of place, with Samantha commenting, "Wow, look, a secret room, let's explore." Then by who I'm guessing is Samantha's other sister commenting, "I don't know, let's go upstairs," followed by Samantha taunting her. This is another one of Samantha's memories. As the uploader progresses, we are flashed by more gore, which has once again been censored in the editing process of the video, so we don't really know what it is. We seem to be in a bunker of sorts of all sorts of random pieces of furniture and food supplies, and even beds likely being a torture room for the father. There's a small case which, when opened, proceeds to show us a bunch of news articles on various murder cases and missing persons, all knowingly committed by Samantha's father. We find a case that appears to be Samantha's father's suicide note for when he decides to leave Earth. He goes on about all the same things that Samantha went on about in Samantha's suicide note, with the added that he wants Samantha to carry on his legacy and how the OA, or Obsidian Abs, will be her new family. The sisters obviously weren't supposed to see that, as we hear footsteps and the father yell at them. We then hear him say, "I'm going to have to teach you what happens to those who stick their noses in places they don't belong." Now, I have to get incredibly serious here. To those who don't want to listen to this, skip to the timestamp on screen. Now, for those who stuck around, remember the talk on the supposed vacuum seal clip? Well, it's cropped and edited in the video, but it's clearly that audio. We can just barely see plastic and what sounds like a young girl struggling in the audio of the clip. I'm gonna be honest, I skipped straight past this. I couldn't listen to it. Now, all things considered, there still seems to be a big debate as to whether or not this is actually abuse material, but to be honest, even if it isn't, you're using the footage to portray it as such things, and I think we can all agree that's pretty messed up. It's still a portrayal of Tubular, no matter the context, and using a real video, adult actor or not, doesn't make it any better. I'll talk about this more later on, but for now let's just get back to the rest of the game. Now, to those who skipped, we're going to carry on. We then see a noose from the earlier forest clip as we hear an audio of someone crying and the father complaining, likely from the other sister being hung. We then hear Samantha's mother tell Samantha to run from the house as we hear the police ring and shotgun rounds go off in the house, implying the father shot the mother. Eventually we see the video again of someone running and then the water clip. This completely changes the context of the original water clip, likely being a short time skip to the future during the memory run. Now, there was just something I wanted to add on that I completely forgot to add at during the process of making this. So, during the shotgun part, and the house burning down, there's actually a clip where you can see someone pointing a shotgun at themselves, which is actually supposed to be the dad, which I'm gonna censor just, for YouTube reasons, but I just wanted to add that on because I completely forgot about that part, and when you hear me talking about the news report, you'll get what I mean, because I don't talk about it. I completely forgot about mentioning it. Anyway, back to the documentary. Either way, we get back to the video of two officers helping a drowning girl out the lake. I can't confirm if these are real officers, but from the looks of it, it could be real except for the fact that... Sorry. It could be real except for the fact there's no body cam overlay present and the officer is using one arm to pull the girl out while it seems like he's recording with the other. If this is acting, then it means more people were involved with the production of this game than we originally anticipated. Soon enough, the video cuts to a news report which reads as follows. Breaking news, drowning girl saved from stream house of horrors unearthed. Police have saved a young girl from a stream near a gruesome discovery. A 911 call led authorities to a house deep into the woods outside of town. The house was on fire as crew members arrived, but in the smouldering remains were 4 bodies. 3 women and 1 male have been recovered from the wreckage. A mass grave of various bones and remains continued to be unearthed around the property as well. No further information on the subject has been provided. Chief Bishop of the Shadow County Police Department stated he believes the girl found can provide more information, but as of now she's in critical condition at the local hospital. Any new updates will be brought in. Now, from reading this report, it only really confirms to us that Samantha's sister did not make it, neither did her father make it out of the fire. But what also seems to be apparent is that her father's days of killing are finally over, but it started a new era of violence perpetrated by Samantha, given the earlier memories that we witnessed. We then see that, I guess you could say, weird hell tunnel again, followed by what seems to be us waking up in a stretcher getting carried into a hospital. I'm not sure if this is based after she got out of the river or after she committed suicide. I honestly don't know. After we hear Samantha curse, it cuts to the title of Anamnesis, followed by the end credits. Now, I was hoping to get some actual names in the credits, but unfortunately it's all either showing stock footage companies, stock audio companies, or AI voices. What I was mainly looking for was the voice actor for Samantha's father, which is listed, but under the acronyms of AA. Now, I actually thought the demon and the brother were voice acted by this AA, but it's actually voice acted by the EG, or the main developer of this game. But at the end of it all, we do get an @ EG @ missing. Although when I googled it, nothing came up, so it might be a defunct tag now. So that's the game. Now, I want to bring up the legality of the clip I mentioned prior to those who skipped it. Was it really okay to include a clip like that? If it's actually serious, and of course it isn't, and the creators should have an investigation put on them. But if it isn't, was it really ethical to use a clip like that to portray abuse of a kid? I feel like for all context's sake, it's incredibly messed up in my opinion, especially when the person who claimed to have seen it years ago said it was from a fetish website, or a fetish forum. Another thing I want to bring up is the fact that they claim that complaints shouldn't be made about the contents of the game because, I quote, "Once it is in the public view, there is possibility for repost." I don't think that's the point of the complaint. It's just really unethical to be putting photos and videos of people getting killed as well as the vulnerable content into the game for the story. Not to mention the aforementioned possible skit clip. I did reach out to Total Chaos as to how he felt about all this, and he said himself he'd rather forget about the things he saw, which is a reasonable response given the possibility of what that video was. Now, I wish to get into contact with the creators of the game in the hopes that they could clarify on a lot of these things and make it easier to understand. For now, this is all we have. I'm hoping this 3-in-1 video will hopefully get enough outreach to where possibly larger YouTubers can talk on this topic, as I think it's important that people start talking about this, and as well as people that can dig a lot better than I can, that have been in this game for way longer, in terms of the investigation side of YouTube. I'd also like to thank these individuals up on screen for helping me throughout documenting this game. They all did a really good job in helping me get more information, especially in the early stages of me documenting what was in this game. So I'm going to leave them up for a few seconds just so you can either congratulate them or more thanking me for, thanking them for helping me with the documentary, or if you want to subscribe to them, you can. Well, that's all. I hope you enjoy this documentary if you can enjoy and find interest in this stuff. For now, I think it's best that we all take a small break and focus on something nicer other than the supposed dark web games with gore and possible. As always, have a good night, I love you, God loves you, and stay safe.